Well, good. Well, hey, I just wanted to we've got Michael Weaver today, and I'm really excited to have you on. This is our Wednesday workshop, and every Wednesday we go live at 2 o'clock and Eastern time, and just look to help our agents and the community learn and grow and get better at something. And today's isn't geared around hiring at all, and which is fine. Like, we want to have a wide breadth of information. And so I think I picked a really special guest today. We've been getting to know each other for not too long, but I mean, the last few months, and really just felt a connection and thought you'd be great for our guest today. So just wanted to welcome you guys all to Michael Weaver.
No, thank you so much, Kevin. Yeah, man, it's we haven't really known each other for that long, but it's been great so far. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, yeah. Well, cool. Well, why don't we, as they say, dive right in. Why don't you give us a little background of who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, again, my name is Michael Weaver, and I got started. So what in the insurance world back in 2011, and I guess before I go into the professional setting, so husband, dog dad, cat dad, no real human children yet, but plenty of fur babies running around. Love to travel, and that's really what my wife and I. So we actually own Weaver Sales Academy, and she's the CEO. I'm the president, and it's a coaching and consulting firm for insurance professionals. So that's what we do right now, full time. Now the road to get to that has been a lengthy road. All right. So I started as a insurance producer working for an agent straight out of college. And that was interesting in itself. I needed a job for an internship, and because I originally was going to school for law, and went around to banks, law firms. Everyone I walked in, it seemed like a funeral home. Like, I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, this is crazy. So walked into a couple insurance agents' office, same thing, very dead, very like, what is going on here? And one office I just happened to stumble in, and younger. It was a younger like culture, very upbeat, very positive. I was like, okay, this is where I would want to spend the summer if I have to do this. Except for he didn't want to give me a job. He's like, come back after you graduate. Well, the problem is I need the internship to graduate. All right. So went back the next morning, was like, I'm going to show up here every single morning until you give me a job. And so he gave me a job. So that's how I got started in the insurance world. I was their marketing expert, which meant their cold calling expert and errand boy. So that's how I got started in the insurance world.
Oh man, that's great. I love the persistency. I mean, you just wouldn't go away, right? Just like kept showing up, and I'm gonna be here tomorrow.
Yeah, I was gonna be that annoying individual that's like, because I had to have the internship. So it's like, which luckily through that was given the opportunity, and then fell in love with the opportunity. So I started with State Farm as a producer team member. And that's actually how my love for coaching started. Is I was not in the beginning. It was a struggle. I'm an introvert by heart. So I'm an extroverted introvert. You'd probably never guess me as an introvert, but so it was hard learning like how to have conversations over the phone. And but after that, I really started to take off. I invested in Brian Tracy back then, The Psychology of Selling, went to some workshops and listened to that CD. I'm going to date myself a little bit now, but every morning on the way to work, every night on the way home from work, I listened to The Psychology of Selling for 18 months in a row. Wow. And that's really how it helped me start to take off in my career, which then others, as you all know, like if you're successful, even as a producer, people are like, what are you doing? So, because back in 2011, I mean, doing, at least in our area, there were not many people doing 50, 60 a month. And I was doing anywhere between 80 and 100. And so it was like, they were like, wow, what are you doing? And so I started to fall in love with coaching, but then I got my own opportunity to open up my own shop. And so took that as a new market agent, and we did well. And I say we, because my wife, we've done all of it together from day one. So we gave up everything. We had $5,000 in the bank, should have probably never been given an opportunity. And that's why, so we grew and I say grew, so we grew by 1 million a year in a population 8,000 person town, really small, but grew 1 million a year every year of agency without doing internet leads. So it was just a bunch of cold calling because we didn't have the money for marketing. Like really, even at 25, like banks were giving me a hard time for a line of credit. So we did what we had to do. Back was against the wall and came out and just started to perform.
That's awesome. That's so cool. And, like we've talked before, it's so ironic, like our backgrounds of how my plan was to go to law school as well. And also my first career, which was at the car dealership, I would listen to Grant Cardone or, different speakers on the way, like to and from every single day to literally just memorize those word tracks back and forth, just to continue to master the craft. Boy, what a shift from being an introvert to what you have and what you've become and what you can be, that you decided to be through your own hard work.
It's been a lot of fun. Obviously, I think it's easier when you find like your passion. All right, but it definitely takes a lot of hard work, or I don't know about hard, but it takes a lot of work, self-development, growth, getting out of your own way.
Yeah.
The mindset is something that I talk about, I think, every day to people, because the number one reason that you're not successful, whatever you deem successful, sales, business, life, is because of you. And it's the mindset. It's the fear of rejection. It's the fear of no. It's the fear of maybe it's you doing a certain thing because you're operating out of, I'm not worthy enough. I personally can speak on that. Like my whole life was built, and this is something that's just come to me. Like my whole life, I've been working since I've been 11 years old and was a 3-4 sport athlete. And my worth was based off of performing and doing good. So when I entered the workforce, it was no different. Working 80-hour, 90-hour, 100-hour weeks, because I felt like that's how I developed. That's how I was worthy. That's how I was. And so it's just, it's a lot, but it's fun. Like that's the fun thing about life. And I think business in general is the constant growth. Even though there are some bumpy and curvy and deep valleys along the way, there's also the mountaintops.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that where we learn the most, is when we're, obviously when we're uncomfortable. Because if it's easy and we're cruising along, there's not much new growth happening. It's when it gets real tough. And, you wonder what the outcome would be. You said you had $5,000 in the bank, and I wonder if you had $100,000, if things would be the same. They maybe not. Maybe, you throw extra money at it, and that's how you used to grow. But you ground it out, like you did what you had to do to make it happen. And I love the fact that you had $5,000 and it sounded like you put it all in.
Mm-hmm.
And you just, it's like, we're going for broke here. And I remember when I started my agency too, no income for 90 days. And it's like, I have to make it. It's not even an option. Like, it's just, you have to make it happen, which is really cool.
Well, and I think there's something about burning the boats. And obviously a 25-year-old Michael and 27-year-old Courtney, I don't know if we necessarily had the business acumen to understand what we did, but we didn't give ourselves an option. She quit her job and we just went at it together, both burnt the boats, backs against the wall. Making 300 cold calls a day every single day wasn't fun, but it was what I had to do at the time to be able to survive, to get the paychecks needed to pay the team and pay for the marketing and run the business. And so it was, but that's also what has honestly springboarded us to where we are today, and how we can teach others to be successful. No matter if you do have a lot of money, you don't have any money, you're really struggling in sales, or you're knocking out of the park. We've done it all. We've been through it all, from living paycheck to paycheck in a 250 square foot apartment, or now where we're at today. But it still comes with struggles. Even when you are where you're at today, it's not because you're always growing. I'm a nerd. I'm always trying to get better. I'm a nerd when it comes to sales, psychology, human buying behavior. Always trying to figure out different ways to approach situations that work.
Yeah, that's really good. So you start out as an intern, then you grew into in the same agency as a sales rep, as
Yep.
a producer.
Yep.
And so how many people were in that agency selling as well? What were they doing? And then how did you get to 80, 90? I mean, the most people doing 50 and you're doubling it. Like that's massive.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So it was a fairly small office. So there were three other producers, and really two probably when I started, and but shortly after. So three to four of us at any given time on average, and they were your typical like 25 to 40, all right, item producers. In the very beginning, it was pure just grunt work. Like I would show up super early, leave super late, call and call and call. But I was a hybrid type of producer to where you were still servicing customers at the same time. So, I mean, 50 to 60% of my day was servicing. The other part was prospecting and selling. And so, but in me hinting at developing that craft. So like I listened to the psychology of selling, went to workshops, started to create my own sales conversation of from everything from the elevator pitch to rapport building to discovering hot buttons to qualifying the lead. And then we just went in and did that. And so once that happened, and we had a consistent sales process, that's when everybody's production started to increase. So not only I was maybe the guinea pig, all right, to actually get it, but then I created the sales process for the office, which then started to increase everyone else's numbers. Maybe they weren't as crazy about mastering their craft as I was, but still they saw anywhere between a 30 and 50% increase in production. So the producers that were doing 25 to 30 a month started doing 45, 50, 60 a month.
Yeah, that's really great. And then how long were you there before you had the opportunity to open up your own agency?
So I was a producer for 2.5 years.
Okay. And then did State Farm come to you, or how did that open up?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, State Farm at that time actually went through so I was supposed to only be there for 18 months, and they went through a blackout period to where they wouldn't hire anyone from outside. They only hired internal because they did a restructure. So but I look at that as a blessing because you're always learning something in the industry. And so that year of advanced growth helped. And then they approached me about because they knew I wanted a certain location, and so the only option there was a new market opportunity, so scratch, so go in with no customers, no guaranteed income, nothing like that, and we took it. My wife and I both because we had been approached actually about another opportunity with over a $2 million book, just in an area that we weren't crazy about, in a really high affluent area, but we chose the the less desirable route, I guess you could say, to most folks. But that was our location where we wanted to go to. We thought we were going to be there for 30 years. Now, obviously, things have changed, and we're no longer there because we're pursuing our other dreams in life that have and passions that came about with being with the insurance industry. But yeah.
Cool. And so what city was that in?
Yeah, so it's called the hill that's pleasant. So Pleasant Hill, Missouri. So it's a town of 8,000 people. Yeah, it's about an hour and a half outside of Kansas City.
Okay, great. And then how long were you there? How many team members, and how'd you build that up?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say, I always said we were small but mighty. Okay. And so the first 2 years was a lot of me and Courtney.
Sure.
Now we still had a team. So we had a team from the very get-go of two other producers. So it was two other producers, myself and Courtney. So we had a team of four from the very get-go. And we did great numbers. I mean, we were over 200 items a month, every single month. And again, like no internet leads, like all cold calling, social media, and Google presence is all we did. And getting out in the community, developing those relationships, obviously extremely important. And so for the first 2 years, it was a lot of just figuring it out. As like I was a new business owner, I'd never done this. So processes and systems that worked. And then obviously about that 2.5 year mark is when we started to we had the processes in place. We had the team in place, even though it was a smaller team, we had the processes that allowed them to run the office, even if we weren't there. And so that's when we started to travel about 3 months out of the year, hired in another customer service person, another salesperson. So that was really, and then we had a couple part-time callers as well. So the biggest we ever got at one time was probably a team of 7 or 8 people, including the part-time. So we were never huge. It was hard. Like that was the one thing I really struggled with in that small town, was getting good people to come down from the city. All right, 30-minute drive. They're like, "Where's Pleasant Hill?" And it's like,
Right.
you don't. So that was always our biggest struggle, but we made it work. And our whole thing is how could we find the best talent that fit the culture and train the talent to where they could produce as much as what most one person, like we had people, one person producing what most teams takes 2 or 3 people to produce. So with a team of 3 salespeople, we would still do 200 items a month every single month. And so that's really what we concentrated on. Like, how can we maximize what we have? Like, yes, I always want more, and I would love to find another superstar or somebody I could make a superstar. But how can we maximize that, what we have and what we're given?
Yeah. Well, I can imagine without getting, instead of working 80 hours and doing double or triple, 80 to 120 hours a week, you must have really focused on close ratio, right? I mean, to be efficient with your time. So tell me about that. I mean, am I on the right path? You guys had a higher close ratio than most, and how did you do that?
Yeah, so we always averaged about a 33% closing ratio, and that was amongst the team. So how we did that, number one, I think it's about consistent training. Okay, so I was always in front of. We trained every single day as a team. Anyone that we hired brand new, I would personally spend an hour a day every single day for the first 6 weeks with them, at a minimum. In the first 3 to 4 weeks, it was typically 3 hours, and so that's why I actually came up with Weaver Sales Academy, which we can talk about here in a minute, because I had to give myself time back. But the training aspect was always consistent. Now, I'm not saying that we were perfect. There were some days where we didn't train. Okay. I'm not saying that, look, you just have those days and you'll make excuses for yourself, but training was an important part of our business. Making sure that everyone knew what was expected of them and clear communications, I think, was another thing we did extremely well. Like we made sure that everyone knew, okay, every single day, I just need you to have 3 quality conversations a day, every single day, with 3 new people that don't currently do work with us, don't currently do business with us. So it was really easy. It was attainable. It was sustainable. It's not like it's going to burn them out, but at 3 conversations a day, quoting more coverage, more policies, the average household we would write had anywhere between 4 and 5 policies per household. So we would maximize the household, maximize the closing ratio without our team sustaining burnout from just like feeling like they're pushing products or just pushing quotes all day long. So we were always a quote 3 type of office, and narrowed our goals down to what 3 things mattered the most in our agency on a daily basis.
Yeah, yeah. And I like I said, 3 quality, like, I mean, real households, not maybe just an internet lead for looking for a motorcycle, but 3 households. And so where did you get most of your, I mean, everyone's is interested in finding the best lead source. What were some of the top lead sources for you guys to find? Because everyone would like to do that. How do they find that?
That's a great question. So in the very beginning, again, and look, obviously we work with about, we've helped out over 10,000 insurance professionals over the last few years. We currently work with almost 5,000. So I've got nothing against internet leads. If you want internet leads to be a part of your marketing plan, I think that's great, but it shouldn't be your entire marketing plan. And that's where I find a lot of people, will miss the boat. And so we always preach 5 acquisition strategies. Like, what are your 5 acquisition strategies for new business? And so ours, cold calling in the very beginning. Now, by the time we were about that 2.5 year mark, we didn't have to make near as many cold calls, if at all, because we had built a referral generating business, because we met with around 76% of our customers from day one. And so we had established those relationships become referable. But we did cold calling, we did SEO, we did social media, we did centers of influence, and I did try direct mail that first year, and it was a negative $10,000 ROI, so I never did that again. And eventually went to focusing more on those referrals, like appointment strategies and things like that. That actually ended up being one of our strategies: is how can we get in front of our customers, not only help them, but also generate referrals from those customers.
Yeah. And any specific or maybe ideas around referrals that you did specifically to maybe help the listeners here? I mean, we all know, like, yeah, ask people for referrals, and if you do ask every time, if you don't ask, you're never going to get. But did you ever have any, contests or anything in particular around referrals?
So I didn't. All right. So now I would pay my team for referrals versus paying like referrals for referrals. I didn't necessarily believe in that. I paid my team for referrals. But our whole thing is how can we create a wow experience on every call? So how can we turn a so-called service transaction or maybe not a great conversation into a wow experience? Like right now is a perfect example of this: rate increase calls. Every single agent in the country, doesn't matter what company you're with, is experiencing rate increase calls. How can you flip your mindset? How can you flip the conversation piece? How can you flip your team from thinking, damn, I am tired of having these calls every single day and getting complained, to how can I make this a wow experience for the customer? So by the end of the call, they're thanking us, we're thanking them for their business, and they want other people to do business with us. So that was one thing. We really tried to concentrate on being intentional with every customer interaction. But most importantly, being referable. Everybody wants referrals, but are you actually referable? Are you any different than anybody else out there? Are you taking the time to meet with your customers? Are you being intentional, calling your customers and saying thank you for your business? Hey, let's get together and look at your current policies. We friended every single customer on Facebook. All right. So we would keep up with them in their lives. So we developed a relationship both outside of work and at the workplace. So not only did they view me as an insurance professional, but they viewed me and Courtney as Michael and Courtney Weaver. Like we wanted to build that personal brand, because that's what people fall in love with. People don't fall in love with you as an insurance professional. People fall in love with you because of your Boston Terrier, because of your kids, because of the places you're going, because of commonalities. You're like them. And so how can you build commonalities? And so I think that's one thing we did that really helped. Really helped our business and our retention, because even though we were a new market agency growing, and we were a low premium market. So when I say we grew by $1 million a year, I mean the average car was like $300 every 6 months. Average home was around 1,100. But what I was most proud of is our retention. So we never really crept above that 20% even as a new agent. We just tried to really write quality business and then form relationships with our customers.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, and so it sounds like, a lot of this stuff is blocking and tackling, maybe not brand new stuff, but I think what I heard out of that is you actually, like, you did it and you followed through and you did it consistently. When others may try something, they try it for a little bit and it doesn't work, but they don't stick to it and do it over and over and have that consistency of doing that.
And isn't that the hard part? Isn't the discipline the hard part? I mean, that's hard for all of us. Like discipline is the most important thing in the world, and it's probably the most difficult thing in the world, because all of us, I don't know about you, but like me, I will take the easy way out if I can. Like if I can hit my snooze button and sleep till 6:30 in the morning and say get up at 5, I'm probably going to talk myself into it. Like, this bed's pretty warm. Or man, the results just aren't really what I want them to be yet. This strategy is probably not working. Like, let's not do that. And so that is the hardest part. But like my rule was always 90 days. Like anything you implement, you got to try for at least 90 days. Just like this, like I was talking about my worthiness earlier. Okay. So I've always worked, still till this day, I work a lot. Like I'm a busybody, but effective in March for the next 90 days. And it's what I've always practiced. It's what I always have preached, but I'm going to, at 5 o'clock every night, I'm done. No more work, no more nothing. And that's going to be a major change for me. But to be able to change anything, you have to be able to change your behaviors. That's the number one thing in business life. It doesn't matter. So discipline's great, but what are the behaviors that are leading into that? You got to be disciplined with the behaviors, and you're either making really good behaviors or you're not making good behaviors. So
it's behaviors and habits. We're literally just talking about that at lunch, and I've always been a pretty good eater. And it's not just because I don't like bad food. I love bad food. Like I could legitimately eat a whole pizza right now. Like, the whole thing. Like if I knew like it was good for me or there would be some benefits to it, like I would crush that pizza. So it does. And I was saying, like, after 30 years of doing it, maybe a little bit easier, but it's not simple. I still crush a pizza, but it is that discipline and getting out of bed, maybe when you don't want to. And the thing that I always think about is like the brain, the whole purpose behind the brain is to stay alive. Like that's its function, is to stay alive. How does it stay alive? Is to protect. How does it protect? Is to keep you safe. How does it keep you safe? It's stay in bed. When it's cold outside, just stay in bed. It's warm. It's instead of going to work, it's laying on the couch.
Yep.
It's just watching TV and having Doritos and a Coke would be amazing, right? Like that's safe and protection. And the brain loves that. But yet, that's not what we're built for. That's not what we're made for. So it does, even though you're disciplined, I know in a lot of your areas, it just might come a little bit easier, but it's hard work. You still got to do it.
It is hard. Like I don't want to work out every day, but I know it makes me feel better. So I'm going to work out. I don't want to meditate every day, but it makes me feel better. And so it's kind of that in between that's like, okay, what are my non-negotiables that I got to do every single day not because of I should do it, but because of how it makes me feel. And that's kind of what I base it off of. Like shoulds are shit. Like you shouldn't do anything. You should go off of feeling. Like how does something make you feel?
Yeah. I remember this thing said, I should until I should all over myself.
That's
Might as well do it, right?
right.
So let's transition over the agency. Maybe how did that end? Why did that end? And where you are today, and what was the passion behind?
Yeah. So that was a hard decision. So we gave up the agency January of 22. So last year, not only did we give that up, so we've been really successful. Again, I say we, my wife and I, we've worked together just about everything we've done. So we also were really successful with a direct sales company. She had a team of over 1,000 people. We created an SEO company for insurance professionals, grew it to a multiple six-figure business within 9 months. And so we gave up everything though to pursue our coaching. And so what I always say is we're sales training, business and mindset coaches for insurance professionals, because that's truly what we are. So we currently work with, I said almost 5,000 earlier. I think we're at like 4,700 right now, insurance professionals across the country. And the name of the company is called Weaver Sales Academy. So we burned the boats last year. All right. It goes back to what we did 12 years ago when we got into the industry. We burnt the boats. We're going all in our dreams, our purpose, our passions. Like our whole goal is to elevate an industry, help those that are struggling achieve the success that they want, help those get to six-figure incomes. And even those that have been doing it a while and are good, it's taking the good and going to great. That's really what we focus on, everything from the sales conversations to the activities it takes to be successful, to the mindset, to the why. And we have a why the company's called Weaver Sales Academy is because we created a 24/7 on-demand university for insurance professionals. There's really nothing else out there like it that's curriculum style. So if your team member, if you have a brand new person that you're onboarding, no sales experience, no insurance experience, we can get up and selling in a multi-line sales conversation within 10 days. We can take your tenured team members, stick them through our 8-week training plan. On average, we're increasing auto fire and life production by 40% within the first 90 days of them being with us. And then we do live, and then we have script vaults. We have all the fun stuff that you are going to expect out of a training and coaching organization. And we do live trainings every single week as well.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's great. And I know that you personally, you and Courtney, train yourself. You guys are like ferocious about that, right? Like, I mean, intentional and purposeful.
I believe you have to be, especially in the role that we're in, because we're constantly pouring into our customers and our clients and trying to add value to individuals. And as a coach, I feel like I need a coach. I feel like we need a coach. I feel like we need to always be learning and growing and developing, staying on top of our game, because the more we stay on top of our game, the more we can pour into our clients and customers to help them stay on top of their game. I mean, we live in a world that is like technology right now. Like I'm all in on technology right now, learning it, because it's going to be a major disruptor in the insurance industry over the next 5 to 10 years. You're going to see it within the next 12 to 24 months. And so we're always trying to get better. But yeah, I feel like I'd be a hypocrite if I was a coach, but I didn't have a coach myself. So that's probably more of a me thing than anything. And I'm thirsty for knowledge. I'm thirsty for always getting better. I'm a nerd, like I said in the very beginning. Like man, human buying behavior, what's that like? Like that's why with Weaver Sales Academy, we came up with all video training, because 75% of the population learns best through video training. So not only can you read it on paper, but you can watch it on video. Then you can listen to the audio sales conversation that we have recorded. So we give you everything to help you learn it faster, quicker, retain the information for longer. And it's just, if we didn't have coaches and trainers and weren't always trying to get better, we wouldn't know that information, and we would be like everybody else out there.
Yeah. Well, at Ideal Traits, obviously our goal is to find the right person, the person that has the right ingredients that can be turned into a great salesperson. And we often get this question, and it's, okay, great. I have a great one. You've helped me find one at Ideal Traits. And then it's like, now what? And I know that can be a 5-hour conversations, if not maybe 5 days. But what would one thing, maybe one area, one or two, whatever you'd like to expand on, to get that person to 40 to 50 items? I mean, I think that's what most agents would dream of, is if I get everybody to 50 items, I mean, life would be grand.
Yeah, that's a really great question, Kevin. So, look, so obviously going back to the basics, clear communication around expectations, not only expectations, but how to accomplish those expectations. Okay. Like actually teaching them, training them. And then if it's somebody in sales, I recommend training sales before I recommend training service. Get them in that role immediately. Like you hired a quick start for a reason. Like really good salespeople are quick starts. Like they want to start seeing success. If they don't start seeing success, that's going to lead to burnout. That's going to lead to, am I doing a good job? All the negative self-talk that we do as high performers. And so training from day one. And really breaking it down. Now you can hire Weaver Sales Academy. I'd love to be your partner in that. I believe we have the best in the business. But if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to partner with somebody, and there's lots of other great organizations out there, then you have to do it yourself. You're going to have to devote the time to training this individual. If you want a sales professional, and that's what I view as an individual that's doing 40 to 50 items a month, every single month, they are a true sales professional. They understand how to have that value-based sales conversation where they are building rapport, where they are finding the need, where they are then putting together an insurance proposal that's just not a single auto, but it's an auto, a home, a life policy, an umbrella, and we're going to propose this, and we're going to give them so much coverage and so much value that they can't tell us no. But that takes training, that takes development, that takes time. But your team is your most important asset. If you pour into your team will pour into your people. And if your people, or if your team is pouring into your customers, then you have happy customers, you have a happy team, you have a happy organization, and you are living the life and dream you want to live.
Yeah. No, that's really good. And I like how you really stress that sales professional versus, maybe just the sales producer, right? I mean, a professional is one who can teach and guide, and one who, can lead somebody down the path, and rather than just answer questions and maybe just ask yes or no and be more on the defense. It's more kind of taking the offensive approach to it, because that you can help and guide them.
Well, and I think you want at least me, I don't want to speak on behalf of anyone, but I wanted a team of sales professionals. I just didn't want producers, because producers are typically just product pushers. And when it comes to pushing products, what happens in a cyclical environment like you're in now, where every agent is in the country, where you're seeing rate increases, you're more on the upfront business. If you're a product pusher, you can't sell, you're selling based off of price. Okay, well, I don't know if have ever heard the statistic, but 90% of consumers surveyed say they are willing to pay more for something if they find value in it. So someone's hot button or someone's reason for shopping insurance is, they say it's money. All right. It's never truly money. It's never about the money, as Uncle GC would say. It's never about the money, man. Like it is about, you have to figure out what their true need is. What are they actually looking for? Are they looking for great customer service? And looking for a great claims experience? Are they looking for a local agent? Like, what is the prospect actually looking for? Because I can guarantee you, no one is looking for a cheaper price when they total out their vehicle. The first thing they're asking is, my God, I hope I have the right insurance in place. And that's what we teach. That's what we do. As you can tell, I'm getting all fired up right now because I think that there's been so much of a push from the Geicos of the world of, oh, we can save you whatever, $15 in 15 minutes. Well, get that. Who wants to save $15 when your house is burning to the ground? When someone gets hurt and they can't work anymore? When a loved one doesn't come home? No one is ever asking, how much am I saving on my insurance? They're asking, am I covered? Like, am I going to be able to replace this? How am I going to be able to pay my bills? That's what people are asking.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. Right. I mean, they're thinking, they typically say, like I agree with you. They say it's about money and say, okay, imagine this. You just got into a major car accident. Is your first question, did I save? It's not going to be the first question. It's going to be, am I covered properly? And so let's sell your insurance today based on that moment, because we have to, as insurance agents, be able to sell at the point of, what's going to be your need at that time. So that's really good.
Kevin, I can see why you were good. You just started to go into a little bit of storytelling. All right. So that's a must in a conversation.
Yeah.
If there's anyone on here that currently doesn't have storytelling incorporated within their sales process or conversation, that's your biggest takeaway from the day, probably. Like, you have to incorporate stories, you have to include them in the story and play out what they currently have and how that would affect them, and then what you're proposing and how that would affect them in that story.
Yeah. Well, they say, facts tell and stories sell. And I loved, whenever I got into storytelling, that was the fun part. And just starting out with, like, now imagine this. And I say, like, tell that story in color, not just like in black and white, or just tell them about a fact. Like, yeah, if you don't have enough coverage, then you're going to have to come money out of your pocket. Like, get a great, real story that you can tell.
Make them feel something.
Yeah.
Everything in the sales conversation is emotional up until the close. Now, the close is logical, all right, and that's a separate line. But you have to get people to feel something. If you're trying to just sell insurance based off of logic, that's a recipe for disaster. You're really going to struggle. You have to make people feel something.
Right.
Like the story I always tell is that you go in a Hy-Vee, or where do you shop? I always ask them, where do you shop at? And then they'll tell me, like, okay, so you go in, buy some groceries. You got to rush home though. The kids are ready. They got some sports games going on. You get in your car, you buckle up. But before you go, all right, you put it in reverse, but your foot's on the brake, but you check your phone real fast. You got to scroll social media. You got to check your text messages. You start to put your phone down, you lift up off the brake, and all of a sudden you hear, how are you feeling right now?
Mm.
And every single time they're like, not good, or I'm starting to get hives, or I just got a little sweaty. And so that's what I mean, like actually putting them in a story. And I'll go in even a little bit more detail than that, but I want to be quick today, but it is powerful. You have to make them feel something, because if you can make them feel something, you're going to disturb complacency. You're going to help them understand what insurance actually does for them, which no one has ever explained that before.
Right.
Consumers don't actually know what insurance does for them. They just think they have it, nor should they know. Like, they're not insurance professionals. That's why you're the professional. It's your job to help them understand why you're proposing what you're proposing through making them feel something.
Are you there?
That's right.
Michael.
Hello?
I feel like you're coming back.
Hello?
All right. Well, while we wait for Michael to come back, first of all, I just wanted to thank you guys all for joining today. If you have any questions for Michael, then please let me know. So yes, Michael, I can see you, but you're frozen on our end.
Can you hear me?
I don't know. Maybe I'm frozen as well. But if you have any questions, you can hear them. I see and hear both of you. Who's on the TV? All right. Shoot. On my end, I don't see any bad connection. I've got full bars.
Well, I guess anyone that
This
can
is
hear
going to
me.
be a little bit tricky, but do you guys have any questions that you'd like to ask Michael before we kind of wrap it up? We typically go 30 minutes, and now we're at 42 minutes. I think it's a great conversation, and really enjoyed having Michael on our show. Hopefully, shoot, I'll try to hit. I don't know if I should hit refresh. Michael, come on back so I can see you.
Well, I just wanted to say for all of those that can hear me, because I don't think Kevin can.
Right. Well, I'm going to try refresh. I might lose y'all.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for coming. Let's try this real quick. Reload site.
And do you all have any questions for me while we wait for Kevin to get back?
All right. Hey, I've refreshed and here we are.
Working?
Sorry about that. Yeah, somehow.
You're good, man. You're good.
I lost it there. That reminds me a little bit like, people will always pay more for something they want than something they don't want. It's like you could have a budget for that sport coat, and it's like, well, I'll spend, I'll forgive the numbers for a moment here, a couple $100, and you find one on sale for $150 that you don't like, and then you find the one you love, and it's $300, $350, and I don't want to, underplay it. I mean, that could be $1,000, but we'll just say, in normal terms. And it's like people will pay more for that than what they don't want. In a way to connect with somebody, because the clothing might not be their thing, is I used to always talk to my agents about the hobby clothes. So typically, if during the conversation, you can find a hobby that they have, that's where you really pull out where people will pay more for what they want. So I don't care if you race remote control cars. I'm sure there's one for $5,000. If you mountain bike, you can get one for $99, but you can also spend 20,000, maybe, I don't know, for sure, 5, 6, 7, or 8,000, right? There's always the extreme. Golf clubs, you can buy them, the Wilson set, for $299 with a bag, or you get the PXG and spend $3,000 just for the irons alone, and then individual weights, and it goes on and on and on and on. So people are willing to pay more for what they want than
think about toilet paper. I ain't buying no cheap toilet paper, man.
anything. Like I can't even think of something the cheapest. I don't even want the cheapest plasticware. If I'm at a picnic, like you hit and it breaks, or if it doesn't, you can't even pick it up. Nothing. I don't want the cheapest anything at all. So, and I think people relate that once, but you have to get that in their mind. You got to remind them of that, because they're not thinking that at the time. They're thinking, I'm programmed to save money, like the brain, right? Protecting you from harm is, I need to protect my wallet here. But once we open up their mind and allow them to really realize that there's a lot of money at stake, don't be penny wise and pound foolish, as they say.
I'm with you, man. It's kind of like I used to tell people, it's like, if you have a heart attack, are you going to the cheapest doctor you can find, or are you going to the best doctor you can find?
Right.
You're going to the best doctor. You want to live. Like, I guess unless you're ready to call it quits, but you're going to the best. Like, no matter how much it costs, that's where you're going. Hey, I am the doctor. Like, I'm here for you on the heart attack days to make sure that when the heart attack happens, that you're not devastated. Like, I am that doctor.
Right. And so it's like, on that same line is, there is the worst heart surgeon, right, in America, whoever that person is. And they're probably like, oh, yeah, my heart works. Yeah, we got to do surgery, right? Not the best. The best is going to say, tell me your symptoms, Michael.
Yep.
And then he's going to know what he needs to do. And then he's going to ask you more questions. No, okay, so tell me what happens when you do this. And then he's going to know what to do, but he's not going to say anything yet. He's going to ask you more questions. All right, so I hear when that happens. But what happens when you do? What happens when you run, when you sit, when you stand, when you sleep, when you wake up, when you go to bed? And finally, after all of that, okay, I think I'm ready to diagnose you. And even then, he's going to probably say this. Now, even though I know, I want you to go get an X-ray or an EKG or and then come back, right? So that's the best. So likewise, as insurance agent, should do the same thing. Like keep asking, get as much out as if you can. You for sure build rapport and be able to prescribe the right prescription / insurance. So yeah, cool. Well, we went way over, which is so cool. Again, if you have a question in chat, we're going to be wrapping this up. I'm going to ask kind of Michael for his final thoughts here, whatever he'd like to close with. And then if you have one, I'm sure he'd be willing to stick around, or we are, to answer your question. So
yeah. Well, Kevin, I just wanted to say again, thank you for inviting me on today. This was a pleasure and very honored. If any of you all have questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. I love this. That's why I do what I do. That's why we love the insurance business, is to help insurance professionals and other entrepreneurs and business owners. So feel free to reach out. So the company is Weaver Sales Academy. Again, the website's www.weaversa.com. You can hit me up on my email. So michael@weaversa.com. I'll give you my personal cell phone if you have any questions. Love to always give that out. Feel free to hit me up, 816-263-1412. And then I'll tell you, like, we are all over every social media platform you can think of. So it doesn't matter if you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. We're always putting out information that a lot of agents actually use our information for team meetings. So make sure you check that out. We have a lot of try to provide value. And then we have a podcast called The Insurance Buzz. Would love to have you tune in on that. Spotify, Apple, pretty much anywhere where you can hear a podcast, we're live on that. So I think I know that's a lot of information about me. So I think the biggest thing I would like to just reiterate here is, if you're struggling with somebody else has probably struggled with that too. So reach out for help. Always ask for help. The mindset piece is probably the number one piece that I see so many agents and producers struggle with. And so if you're not currently investing in yourself, regardless if it's reading books, watching free stuff on YouTube, or maybe you do want to take it to the next level and hire someone in to partner with you in that corner, do that, because it can help with your mindset tremendously, because you're around people that are doing things. And when you're around folks that are in that growth mindset, that development mindset, it really, really helps. So that'd be the biggest thing I would say. If any of you are struggling, reach out for help, because it doesn't have to be a struggle.